Arkham Asylum was originally the ancestral home of the Arkham family, and Amadeus Arkham intended to turn it into a pioneering place of treatment for the mentally ill. But over time, Amadeus's charitable spirit was torn down, and he descended into madness. Arkham Asylum decayed into a cruel institution hollowed out by neglect, corruption, and apathy. Later reinventions like Arkham Tower tried to modernize that failure, but the underlying idea remained the same. They contained the problem, kept it out of sight, and hoped that the walls held up. And in the Absolute Universe, Arkham Asylum's successor, the Ark M facility, gets its own origin story. We'd already seen how the facility came to be. Gotham's elites, chief among them the Joker, engineered chaos across the city. They funded riots, crime was incentivized, and fear was carefully cultivated, all to justify a permanent state of emergency, and martial law followed. In that climate of panic and distraction, the Ark M facility was rapidly constructed, looming off the coast, visible for all. Publicly, it appeared to be just another high-security prison built to relieve an overburdened system. In reality, it was the 13th facility in a global network of arks, a project decades in the making. While the construction was recent, the land had been acquired long ago by JK Industries, owned by, you guessed it, the Joker. When Batman's friend Waylon Jones was kidnapped and dragged to Ark M, we learned the hideous truth. The ominous building lurking just across the water is a facade. The true Ark M exists far below the surface, a vast subterranean complex, closer in scale to a city than a prison. Where Arkham Asylum claimed to treat the broken, Ark M is designed to transform them. The staff treat the patients as if they were assets and not people. Hell, even some of the staff seem to have little autonomy. Just look at its lethal enforcer Bane, constantly at Joker's beck and call. If the mainline Arkham Asylum was a symbol for Gotham's failure to care, then I'd say that Ark M is proof of Gotham's decision to stop caring altogether. It's what happens when the madmen take over the asylum. So the first thing that I think needs to be addressed is the fact that this comic, the Ark M special, may have gone under the radar for some people. It is essentially another issue of Absolute Batman and acts as a great follow-up to Absolute Batman 15. If you are a regular reader of that series and you haven't picked this up, my advice is to go get it. There are some very important details about this universe's Joker in this issue, and the story is told across 3 time periods. The present day, where a mysterious figure reads Amadeus Arkham's journal, 1945, when an elderly Amadeus sells the asylum to a mysterious benefactor, and the 1880s, during the early days of the asylum. In the mainline comics, Amadeus Arkham was driven to founding the asylum because of his mother's serious mental health problems. Amadeus Arkham welcomed even the most dangerous patients into his asylum, convinced that treatment could redeem anyone. That belief was tested when one of them, Martin "Mad Dog" Hawkins, escaped and murdered Arkham's wife and daughter. Publicly, Arkham continued to treat Mad Dog, earning praise for his restraint and compassion. Privately, he crossed a line he could never return from, murdering him during a session of shock therapy and passing it off as an accident. From here, Amadeus descended further into madness. The Absolute version has a similar backstory, but there are some crucial differences. Young Amadeus was orphaned as a child after his mother murdered his siblings and killed herself upon learning of her husband's death in the Civil War. She had pointed the gun at Amadeus, but instead of shooting him, she shot herself, leaving him as the sole survivor. Now obviously that's not the reaction of a sane person, but Arkham notes that his father had been killed in a battle shortly after the war had officially ended. His death was utterly meaningless, and the grief broke his mother. He had been placed in the state's care and grew up in an orphanage run by the Elliott family, and when he reached adulthood he applied for a grant to build a mental hospital to treat people like his mother. And this comic is presented as his confession for the unspeakable evil that he unleashed upon the world. With his limited means, he had bought a patch of land that once housed a prison used by the British during the Revolutionary War. This was a place where many people had been brutalised and tortured, so it carried the weight of decades of abuse. But things initially went well for this new asylum, and Arkham earned praise and publicity for taking in the kinds of patients that other hospitals couldn't deal with, like Jack Doe, a serial killer who killed 2 nurses and another patient shortly after his arrival. This grinning psychopath was the worst of the worst, but Amadeus was determined to help him. Amadeus's charitable spirit can also be seen when he takes in an orphan boy who turned up soaked in blood on the asylum's doorstep. Amadeus had no children, so this mysterious boy became like a son to him. He was an avid student, someone who seemed to share Amadeus's mission and looked at every setback in a positive light, saying, "Tomorrow's a new page." And their charitable spirit was never dampened. Even when Jack escaped from his cell and held the boy hostage, Amadeus kept his calm and secured the boy's release. What was less known is how Jack eventually escaped the asylum. They assumed that one of the guards had been careless getting too close to his cell and paid for it with his life. Jack took the keys and freed several other dangerous patients, murdering others along the way. Rather than trying to escape through the front door, the madmen went into the furnace room and broke through a wall, digging their way to freedom. When Amadeus woke in the morning, he was stunned to find that Jack had also taken the boy, and he never saw them again. Racked with guilt and shame, Amadeus began to track cases of madmen and murderers he believed to be under Jack's tutelage. Flash forward to the 1940s and the asylum has been bought by a mysterious benefactor, and this man knew about the breakout and had asked to be shown the furnace room. Amadeus hadn't been down there in almost 60 years, so he didn't notice that there was a second patch of wall that had been knocked down and re-bricked on the night of the escape. With this now apparent, the buyer whispered something to Amadeus and left, something deeply disturbing. And what was behind the wall? Jack Doe's corpse with a note saying, "Tomorrow's a new page," the same words the buyer had whispered. With the dramatic revelation that the boy was the orchestrator of the breakout, and that he hadn't been following Amadeus's teaching but instead had been mocking them, and that he now owned the asylum and was somehow much younger than he should be, Amadeus burned the whole place down along with himself and the few remaining patients. He destroyed his entire life's work because it had been corrupted. The Joker is his true legacy, and it mortified him. So yes, this issue is just as important in defining the Joker's origins as Absolute Batman 15 was. While it doesn't give us any specific answers as to what he is, we do get a better sense of his origins. The scene at the start of the issue where he turns up at the asylum's doors drenched in someone else's blood reminds me of a scene from an early issue of Absolute Wonder Woman, where Diana doused herself in blood in order to cast a spell. This suggests to me that magic could be the root of his longevity. Although I suppose we already knew the significance of other people's blood to the Joker, given that we have seen him draining the blood of babies. In the present day, we are also shown that Amadeus's journal made its way to the Joker, and after finishing it, he makes a small chuckle. The issue ends with Joker reviewing footage of Batman, who he describes as a former Ark M patient, which is certainly one way of looking at it, as he unleashes some of the other patients from their cells. He has a list of people, Pamela Isley, Jonathan Crane, Hugo Strange, Kirk Langstrom, Basil Carlo and Jervis Tetch, that he wants to try to use against Batman before unleashing his big gun, Deathstroke. I think there's something very sad about Amadeus Arkham. He dedicated his entire life towards helping Gotham's most deranged people, those that the rest of society had given up on, and he is bound to have had some successes over the course of his life, but it was all undone by the boy as a cruel joke. Joker waited 60 years to return and deliver the punchline that Amadeus's beloved adopted son was not the successor that he believed him to be, nor had he been tragically killed or kidnapped. He was a liar and a corruption of his philosophy. Joker used Arkham Asylum to study evil, to learn from it, and rather than cure people as Amadeus had hoped, Joker would create more monsters to unleash on the world. It started with serial killers in the 1800s, and continues to this day with the monstrosities unleashed from Ark M. Amadeus may have tried to purify the site and himself by burning the building down, but he was frankly kidding himself if he thought he could somehow stop the Joker. At best, he delayed his plans. Joker still owned the land, and it would go on to house his new Ark M facility. I have to think that Amadeus treated it more as a punishment, as a way of erasing himself and everything he had built for being so foolish. But it genuinely is quite sad to think how little he actually achieved. The Absolute Ark M special is available now from all good comic shops. If you're opposed to the idea of cluttering up your home with comic books, then you can get this comic digitally from places like Amazon as well as Neon Ichiban, a new digital comic retailer from the founders of Comixology. Personally, I prefer physical comics, but I do love the convenience of having thousands of comics accessible from my phone, but you do what works best for you. For those that are interested in how my physical collection is coming along, well, it finally happened. We had to upgrade to a bigger storage unit. I spent a good chunk of my Christmas break moving my collection to the new place, and oh lord, I'm tired. I've still got about 15 boxes to go before I'm done. Won't anyone think of my poor aching back? Next time. Continuing DC's bumper week for releases, I'll be back very soon with a video about Absolute Superman 15, which promises to kick off a new era for the Man of Steel as he makes himself more well known to the world. Following that, I'll be talking about Absolute Green Lantern number 10, where Joe Mullen comes face to face with the villainous Goldface. And finally, early next week, I'll be talking about Batman number 5, where Bruce Wayne and Dr. Zeller's night out gets interrupted by a new villain, the Ojo, formerly known as Lady Deathman. Hope to see you then.